Hello, Carla.
Hey, Chris.
Carla, we have not shared the Cup of Joy space since, I believe, February of this
Yes,
year.
yes. It's been a long time.
Why?
I mean, listen, we've been everywhere, right? Like we've had leadership journeys, South by Southwest, ASU We've had, equity fellows convenings. It's been a few, busy months.
Yeah, and I think we've continued to like play around the format because I think when we started out, we were doing this twice a week, and like while we had so many great guests and had great conversations, that can feel a little bit of a burden. And I think our sort of control mechanism was to just tap the brakes for a little bit, but we're back. We're gonna go once a week, Thursdays at 11:30 Eastern, and you already got a lot of great guests lined up for May.
We
Next
do, we
week,
do.
we're talking to folks from Hip Hop Ed. In 2 weeks, we're gonna dive into the topic of environmental activism in the Bronx.
Mhm.
Talk to a young person from Fannie Lou Hamer Freedom High School. And if you don't know already, Elliot Washer has a new book out called "Learning to Leave." We'll be talking to him at the end of this month. But let's not talk about who is coming up. Let's talk about like who is here today.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Right. Greetings, Sharif.
Hey,
We are so pleased to have you back as our first guest after a long hiatus on Cup of Joy Cafe.
no, my pleasure, honor, duty, all the things. Great to be reconnected and diving into this conversation. And I am looking forward to that. The rest of May. The lineup sounds dope. I've never heard of Fannie Lou Hamer High School. I can't wait to learn more about the school, learn about the youth activists, and I think all of this environmental justice is connected to all other justice facing efforts. So good stuff.
Nice.
Yes, yes. I want to kick off, right? So for folks who don't know, for folks who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do at the Center for Black Educator Development?
Yeah, absolutely. Really thrilled. This is actually our anniversary. May 2nd was our we're 4 years old now.
Mhm.
After teaching and being a principal in community-based schools for 26 years. That's a quarter of a century, y'all. That was a long time. But every time I say that, I meet an educator like I've been in the game for 40 years, so then I'm like, oh, all right, what I mean? But after 26 years, really wanted to work with a team to launch the Center for Black Educator Development. And our work is to rebuild a national Black teacher pipeline, a Black teacher pipeline that's highly effective, that's sustainable, that's protected and predictable. And we do that by starting with high school students. But this pipeline, this Black teacher pipeline, we also believe has to be insulated and secured. And we do that through our other, efforts of policy and advocacy. Like, what are policy issues that undermine or can support a Black teacher pipeline? We do professional learning from Philadelphia to Fresno, California, whether they're college professors or student teachers. Active school leadership teams and new teachers, all the way to veterans. So we just believe in what are the mindsets and skills necessary to be effective educators, and that there are competencies that lay the foundation for great teaching and learning in communities. And then pathways, which is the bulk of our work, is that feeds the pipeline. We start with high school students,
Hmm.
and not only have teacher academies, which are courses that students can take while they're in high school. Imagine an elective, teaching 101, so to speak, but it's from a Black pedagogical framework and a Black historical lens. But it's also tied to an apprenticeship, a paid apprenticeship, during out of school time. Think summer, after school. This high school student, like, yeah, I'm interested in exploring teaching. They get to practice and learn more and be coached, mentored, and supported by our team as these high school and college youth teach first, second, and third graders. So it's like really pulling into the community. And then the third component of our pathways, we have the Teacher Academy, we have the paid apprenticeship. Third part is this Future Black Teachers of Excellence Fund that we were able to raise $1 million to provide a fellowship for college youth. So, imagine someone going to college saying, yes, I'm interested in teaching. They've come through our program, and now they get last dollar scholarship support. as well as a retention bonus once they get to their 5th year of teaching. So that's what we do in a nutshell. Building the Black teacher pipeline, policy and advocacy, professional learning, and then pathways to the journey of leading a classroom. So
Nice.
it's been a great 4 years so far.
Well, Sharif, Carla and I are just getting to know you, but your reputation precedes you. But the context with which we're just getting to know you is you were a panelist on our most recent leadership journeys
Mm.
at ASU GSV. Fe- feels like yesterday, feels like a year ago, but I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I want to show you an image and have you sort of describe what leadership journeys is from your perspective, and also like what type of emotion what I'm about to show you evokes. Um,
Mm.
Maybe
Yeah,
it'll come.
yeah.
There we go. So tell me about this. Like what's going on here?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see, you can see the joy, um, in the room. Not only myself as I'm listening. I don't know if it was Lizette or Bettina, talking, but it was also welcoming and celebrating. DM one half of Run DMC. And so, just when I see this picture, I see joy, I see community, but we were also like challenging each other, and so it was one of those places that I would describe as it was both safe to be vulnerable, but it was also a space of bravery and courage to be vulnerable, right? Because you can have safe spaces and still not have the courage to be vulnerable and expose yourself and share your learnings publicly. So it was both like a fishbowl, but also opportunities to engage as simultaneously, which I think is really hard to do. And you all have really, like taken this and created a craft out of it,
Mm.
like how to build trust really quickly, and build community really quickly, and then also being able to make it a learning journey, sharing the vulnerabilities of how they've learned to lead, and both from the wins and the mistakes. They're both learning opportunities. So, yeah, I mean, it was a blast, and it was very unique in my 30 years in education. I've never participated in anything even close to that. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it and appreciate the honor of being in the space with you all.
I want to tease out a word that you use because when our colleague Carlos Moreno first thought about what this could be, it was an opportunity to challenge leaders to be vulnerable in public private spaces, right? So it's like
Hmm.
public, you're in front of 300 people, but it's private in so much as like you can trust that this is a place where we're not having folks videotape it.
Hmm.
We're just asking people to be vulnerable in a public private space.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
let as my question. Is this a true premise? Leaders aren't told that they can be vulnerable, and as a result, there should be spaces where they can be.
Oh, I think you're spot on with that. There's actually the opposite. Leaders are taught to be stoic know-it-alls. Like that's
Mhm.
and you even have there's sayings that's pretty that permeates our leadership you know uh tapestry, which is that the idea of fake it until you make it even kind of sometimes sends the wrong message. And I get like what that means, but it also can be internalized and executed in ways that is the opposite of what leadership actually is and is supposed to engender, right? And so if we're faking until we make it all the time, that means we may not ask for help. We may operate in silos. We may not build communities. We may be off-putting even. And so I know my first role is I was a principal for 16 years, teacher, leader, and assistant principal for a couple years before then. And I remember my starting off as a principal, like I was not vulnerable. It was like, all right, we're here to do work. Let's go. Here's the metrics. Here's what we're trying to do. Here are the outcomes we're shooting for. And it was a while before someone gave me feedback, like, you know what, people actually need to know you.
Mhm.
People need to know you and what's your why. That's still one of my biggest regrets of starting my leadership, in the principal seat, not sharing my why. I started off with what I wanted to do, even what we wanted to do together, because I was still community based, but I was not sharing my why, because that why also, it opens your chest up a little bit and shares your heart and like what your thinking is, what's your origin story. All of those things was not part of my initial paradigm.
Thank you.
I actually have a follow-up question to that. Well, more about I know you've watched leadership journeys beforehand, and
Yeah.
now you're able to participate. Were there any I know you were nervous. How did your experience and your nervous, I don't know, like how did it shift now that you've done it? Were you like, this is, I don't know. Can you tell us a little bit about like the before and then the after of being part of it?
Yeah. I'm always nervous before any type of public speaking, but that was a higher level of nervousness. That was a little like, that was maybe a little fear, was happening. I mean, I think part of it was because I'd seen it a few times, and seeing it performed with such, just depth and precision, and energy. And I was just like, it was a little intimidating, right? So it was just nervousness. I was intimidated to be in that space, other than in the audience, just because I thought the bar was so high.
Mhm.
How I walked away from each of those was such a compelling, sense of inspiration and community, and like just I felt my spine was steeled in certain ways, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to deliver,
Mm.
something like that on my own. What people delivered for me, and I
Mhm.
think part of, and this is the beautiful part of what you all have built. What kind of decreased the intimidation factor was the community, your team, as well as other participants who had done it before, that I had watched. Misha and Kai, I have a picture where they were coaching me up. We were shared a car.
Really?
Yeah, I'll send it to you all. Like, they were literally coaching me up. I was like, this is a moment. So then I took a picture of them in the back seat, and it was, and it wasn't just, a couple days before. Like, I was getting texts, and Carlos, like, you got this, we got you, this is gonna be, and and that's exactly what community is. It reminded me
Mhm.
of a classroom. And when, someone is being called on to do something, maybe that student is presenting something in the front of the room and they haven't done it before. And sometimes you see these communities where it's not just the teacher, the leader, who's like doing encouragement, or the family back home, like, oh, you can do that. It's their peers
Mm.
who are saying, no, Raheem, we got you. No, Shaniqua, this is, you're gonna be great, right? Like that kind of thing. And that's the essence of community, right? Where it's not just the leader doing it, it's the collective. And that's what, I had our team, several of our team members from the Center for Black Educator Development were there. Obviously, other peers and colleagues. You all's team was, just all of it. Like, you all are so intentional about building community that, things happen behind the scenes that that not even probably that you're not even aware of. Like, you're not aware that, that Misha and Porter and Kaya Henderson and so many others are like, no, let's do this. You got this. Tulane was like, I can't wait for, to hear
Wow.
about, right? So these are other participants in the past who are, and this idea of like, how do you lift as you climb? How do you lift each other up, yourself up as you climb? Which is, that's a critical part of the work that Mary Church Terrell coined that phrase when she was encouraging other educators. As we're doing the work, lift others, as well. So lift as you climb is an important part of our orientation at the center,
Mm.
but we see it everywhere. We see that beauty in any space that people are trying to build community.
Thank you. Man, when you say the list of like leadership journeys alumni out loud, I mean,
Yeah.
we've done this 12 times and that feels like a lot, but I mean, I think we could still do it like 100 times more. But to know the types of folks that have already come through leadership journeys, um, makes me very proud that those folks have associated themselves with us, including yourself. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I named like what 3 of. I'm like, I
Right.
mean, the amount of folks on there that didn't
I
even
mean, Dina
mention.
Simmons, Dr.
Yes,
Emden, like
yeah, they were the
Alan Chang, Naseem Hamid. What's up,
Doctor
Naseem? I mean,
Dr. David Johns. Like there were just so many that were and I think the first one I saw, it was Edgar, Dina, and Misha in Kansas City, and I was just like, holy cow, they've captured something in this moment. And then to see that I hadn't heard of it before that time, and I've been just a super fan ever since.
got to shout out Nancy Gutierrez as well.
Yes, 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 absolutely. And we're looking forward for you all to be part of the National Black Men in Education Convening, the BMEC, which is our sixth national. It's probably the 15th overall Black Male Educator Convening, but this is the sixth national one. We only took off during 2020's pandemic, and we are excited to incorporate this into BMEX. Hopefully, moving forward. Hopefully, this just becomes a staple that people come to participate in.
Nice.
November 16th through the 18th. That's the dates for the sixth national Black Male Educator Convening. We've
And
been
we're
going back and forth, Black Male Educator Convening, Black Men in Education Convening, but it's still BMEC, hashtag BMEC 2023. It's in Philadelphia. It's always been in Philadelphia besides the one virtual year in 2021. But so this was our first time back in person. Last year was our first time back in session since 2019, and it was fantastic. Imagine, almost 900 Black men educators and allies who were there to learn, grow, challenge each other, and this idea of collective work, responsibility, and accountability. And what does that mean when we do that in community with others from around the country?
excellent. Carla, I see. Carla, you able to come on?
Yeah, briefly. Sorry. I just want to close with a question. Why Philly?
Yeah. You know what? Philadelphia has such a deep and rich history of not only is it a large city, right? Like the fifth or sixth largest city in the country, but it's comprised of neighborhoods.
Mhm.
My parents, for example, were born and raised in the Black Bottom of
Mhm.
Philadelphia, which has since changed radically through gentrification. Initially disinvestment, and then investment in gentrification. You have West Philadelphia. West Philadelphia, born and raised. That's my part of my story too, right? We're actually schoolmates. So Will Smith was, I think, a
Wow.
year or two ahead of me at Overbrook High School, right? And my grandfather was in the inaugural graduating class of Overbrook High School. And he was one of the very few Black people that attended that school. Then, years later, very few white students are attending the school. And so you see, Philadelphia, because of its unique history and longevity in this version of, of America, just has a lot of, long-standing traditions and cultures and, diversity and all of those things. So I think the richness of the history, but also the richness of the history of activism in Philadelphia, like how people really kind of charted the way, whether it was part of the Underground Railroad and, part of the, civil rights work up north, so to speak, where, Matthew Countryman wrote about up south, and he was talking about the history of Philadelphia and activism in that space. And so, it's also the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. So all the things that just makes it unique. In this corridor, in this corner of America.
Sharif, thank you for being our first guest back.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thanks, and it's an honor to be the first one after your hiatus since February. You know what I mean? So that's dope, and looking forward to to tuning in for the next episodes every Thursday. So now so we can set alarm and timer. All right.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Right.
Appreciate y'all and great seeing y'all and looking forward to continuing to build together.
For sure.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Carla, I'm gonna admit to one of my weaknesses. It's like when I'm in a Zoom meeting or a webinar with somebody that I admire and they're sitting in front of a bookshelf, all the time I'm like, what should I be reading? Like, so
I'm always like, what are the books? Like, are they similar? You know,
I'm gonna go back and rewatch this and slow it down and check out some of Sharif's recommendations just by way of his bookshelf. So
you zoom in.
All right, Carla, we're back. Excited.
Thank you for yes. Let's do this. I'm so happy.
Rusty, do you remember your closing phrase?
Make it a great day or not.
I think that's the one.
The choice is yours.
All right, thanks. Thank you so much. We're happy to be back.